in a special conversation with Director Peninsula Mediation and ADR at a program on fostering and protecting healthy dissent in the workplace, a collaborative event between the US Council Journal and Government of India Department of Education, Ali Our Jung National Institute of Speech and Hearing Disabilities in Mumbai. Namaskar, we have got Ms Merri with us, who is a Director, Peninsula Mediation and ADR, United States. Ms Merri, first of all, welcome and thank you. And I would like to wish you a Merry Christmas, belated Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Of course, thank you for joining us. My question to you, of course, about the today's session, which is a collaboration with the Council Journal, United States, and of course, Ali Our Jung, which is a National Institute for Speech and Hearing Disabilities. Department of Education. So how do you see today's collaboration, which talks about the fostering and protecting healthy dissent in the workplace, as you are from the background?
I see the collaboration as an opportunity to identify ways that problems in the workplace can be identified, whether it is the U.S. consulate workplace or whether it is this institution's workplace, and find ways to respectfully resolve them.
And of course, when we talk about, of course, the workplaces, so there are several issues, and it is said that the developing nations follow the developed nations. So in terms of policies, so in terms of seeing all sort of cases. Example, sexual harassment and all that. Any advices for the policy makers of the developing nations how to deal with certain situations?
Okay. I think that one of the things to think about, for instance, India's POSH law, which was passed in 2014, is now 11 years old. And in the 5 years since I was last in India working on these issues, there's been much progress, which is very good to know. There is the beginning of a culture change in many organizations, so that they're not simply enacting the requirements of the POSH law, but they're actually seeing the benefits. And they're seeing the benefits not only for women in the workforce and increases of women's participation in the paid workforce, which is a critical indicator of economic development and health. So it seems to be promoting that. But also the concern now that it be an inclusive law. Your law focuses just on protecting women, and the law in the United States is gender neutral. It is protection on the basis of one's sex. And so I believe that is one way that India or other developing nations can begin to think about that the protections need to extend to all people, because if all people are included, the old saying, a rising tide floats all boats. And so if we're all going to progress together, then we all need to be afforded the right to work in a respectful workplace.
Of course, what I could see from a healthy work environment, what kind of tips you would like to give to small and big organizations to deal with certain cases in certain categories you like to highlight?
That's not something that we can boil down to a few tips, but I can say that leaders are the ones who really set the tone in an organization. They're responsible for managing the culture in an organization, regardless of what the political terms are that are used or are no longer used. They still have the ability to ensure that their workplace is compliant with the laws of the land when it comes to, for instance, prevention of sexual harassment, and that they create expectations, policies, practices that will support a system that ensures that all employees are safe and are respected. Ultimately, that's a role of leadership. So
you mentioned policy and practices. Of course, policies are available. So how to indulge the common citizens also to adapt those practices?
Right. Again, it takes culture change, and I think we always have to think about appealing to the person to help them understand what's in it for them. Why should they care? Why should they care that their daughter or their sister or their wife or their mother whoever the relation is, participates in the paid workforce. It's going to benefit them economically. It's going to benefit their family economically. It's going to raise their standard of living. It's going to increase their life. And so we need to think about, why should they care? We need to have conversations about, what are you concerned about? How would this benefit you? And try to make that happen. So that, again, people are safe, women are safe coming and going from work. That's really a very baseline requirement. And that, again, that families see the benefits of women participating in employment. It was thought that if all workplaces by 2025 had an equal number of men and women participating in the paid workforce, that it would increase the world economy by billions and billions of dollars. So I think those are the things that I would encourage people to think about, the benefits.
Just a last liner, of course. This is a question which is very close to me, I would like to put up. As we are a developing nation which has got a vision of Viksit Bharat, that means a developed world, entering into a developed country like the United States is. So, as you also mentioned some good points about India, so do you think we are on the right pathway in terms of workforce, which is the important in this Viksit Bharat journey? Any comments on that, please?
I'm not prepared to talk generally about the workforce, but I can say that, again, what we know based on best practices in developed nations, that by increasing women's participation in the paid workforce, that everyone benefits from that. So that's as far as I can go with generalizing from that.
So do you think, from a general perspective, from a U.S. citizen's perspective, India is on the right pathway?
I think that India is on the right pathway in some regards. In terms of the organized labor force, yes. In terms of the unorganized and rural labor force, no. In fairness to India, that is a very challenging area to try to create culture change and to provide safety for women coming to work and returning home from work, and having safe workplaces, so safe and respectful workplaces. The law provides for women in the unorganized and rural areas as well, but getting the message out there, educating people. I think that it probably needs to, at this point in time, we need to get very far ahead of it, and that would be to educate girls and boys in school, because boys also need to know what a respectful workplace is and how to treat people with respect, just as girls need to know how to treat people with respect. I think it's by looking at the upcoming generation that we can, in the most organized way, we can get the message to them, and that the change will eventually come to those sectors as well.
Learning is a part of life, and of course, seeing today's event, it's a very learned event for me as well. So would you be doing these kind of events more and more, collaborating in other parts of India as well?
I don't have anything on my schedule at this time. I'm always available to do that. I've worked as an expert speaker for the Department of State. I'm not a Department of State spokesperson or employee, but an expert speaker for the Department of State. So my views are really my own as an expert in this area. And I've worked in other parts of India in the past, and this is my first time in Bombay.
So you had a wonderful experience, I guess?
I had a wonderful experience. Yes, I did.